Should I just do it on the phone or what? Instead of the desktop?
I can, ma'am, for me you're audible and I can see you as well. So the moment you say go live,
एक second.
we will start. You want me to assist you somewhere?
No, I'm coming. Okay.
Good to start.
Now can you hear me?
You need to switch off one of your phone, otherwise there'll be a lot of disturbance for you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. I can see you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. Wonderful.
All right, good to start?
Good to start.
Great, finally. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Kalpana Chowdhary, founder of SocialtableZ, managing trustee and chairperson of Jan Seva Foundation, Being the Change, and Lagna.com. Lagna.com is a matrimony portal for differently able cancer and acid attack survivors. Along with it, co-chairperson of ASSOCHAM State Women Entrepreneur Development Council, GSDC, member at FICCI Flow CII IWN Maharashtra, Women Economic Forum, and TEDx speaker. Before diving into the guest introduction, I would like to take a moment to introduce you with the SocialtableZ. SocialtableZ is committed to sustainable development program with societal well-being and environmental consciousness. Every week, we bring out to you some of the brightest minds from the diverse sectors to discuss over a few significant ongoing issues. In this week's speaker series, we have our honorable guest, Gayatri Dalmia ji, who is also known as Bindu Dalmia with Love, is the chairperson of the National Committee on Financial Inclusion and Financial Literacy at the Government of India Premier Policy Think Tank, the Niti Aayog. She is also a member of the Rashtriya Sevak Samiti RSS Ladies Intellectual Wing. Ms. Bindu is also an author and a columnist who has been writing for 9 of the leading English and Hindi national newspaper. In her writing, she addresses various issues about India in transition, socio-economic issues, and contemporary topic. Her writings are an attempt to create a value portal, a platform to ignite smart energy in order to be interactive with a diverse section of society. She has mentored in the Shiv Nadar factory of mind machine in thought leadership, as she calls it, in her imprisonable and formative 20s. When she headed the Oscar vertical marketing, working with Hindustan Computers in its nascent years in the 80s, her success in her formative years became a compelling reason to be committed to being actively involved in the National Program for Financial Literacy and Financial Inclusion with Niti Aayog. So as to help bring about a financial literacy awakening, especially amongst the women, which it is still a work in progress. So in today's discussion, we are going to talk about how Modi's vision for a new India integrates Atmanirbhar Bharat with women-centric reforms. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible? Okay, there's some technical glitch.
I'll put off the computer 1 second.
Ma'am, are you okay? Okay to go?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Audible.
Audible.
Okay, promise, let's start then.
All right. A warm welcome to you, ma'am, and on a social speaker series. Thank you so much for accepting our request. It's our utmost pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Kalpana ji. Thank you for having me on your show. And I'm really as excited for you having invited me on your very prestigious platform. I'm extremely honored, as equally excited to be with you and your viewers this evening. And I think the questions that you have posed are extremely contemporary and very interesting. They are very relevant to what is happening today.
So
I also noticed that you're doing a lot of good work. So many congratulations with what you do with all the chambers of commerce and all. More power to you, Kalpana.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for your blessings. So in today's discussion, we are going to discuss about how Modi's vision for New India integrates Atmanirbhar Bharat with women-centric reforms. So, ma'am, how do you think that an Atmanirbhar Bharat will contribute to this, to the social well-being of women in India? How will they be empowered? What are the gender-specific schemes undertaken by Modi's government since the last 6 years of the governance that have benefited women?
Okay, let me first explain to you and the viewers, Kalpana ji. Let's see, Atmanirbharta or economic nationalism world over is a very self-preservation strategy to support local jobs and consumption. You know, by doing away with non-essential imports like toys, crackers, you know, we didn't have any reason to import all this from China. It was just that China managed economies of scale and they would give it to us dirt cheap. Somewhere through all the pressures that we have undergone, the post-pandemic pressures, the threat of geopolitical problems we are facing, I think we just had to one day sit up and think for ourselves. And these were just the kind of protectionist triggers which saw the rise of Brexit or Trump's America First policy. By expanding the size of the economic pie and enlarging the indigenous manufacturing, integrating Indian products with the global value chain, what this will do is it will trigger multiplier coefficients in generating employment, increasing our GDP, raising our per capita incomes, all of which constitutes first universal financial inclusion. Now, when universal financial inclusion increases, gender specific also goes up. Because by widening the size of the economic pie, it lifts all boats up. Therefore, it is through raising the gross economic growth that we can achieve a comprehensive trickle-down effect that will ultimately also accelerate the financial inclusion of women. It has been observed that, you know, in developed nations which have higher GDP, they proportionately have much lesser income and opportunity disparities. So India needs to get there. Atmanirbharta will be achieved as indigenous production expands, which will expand our economic activity so that it ensures that the fault lines of income opportunity, inequalities between genders, and the rich and poor does not perpetuate into the new India. I think more than ever before, we need to get back to the time and tested Gandhian principles of Swadeshi, Sarvodaya, and Antarodaya, so that we move towards a more inclusive and equitable society through universalization of education, of housing for all, which is the target by 2022, and health. By 2022, which is the 75th year of independence, hopefully we're working towards it. I know it's seeming like a distant dream now, given all the constraints, but if these factors do happen, it will increase the ease of living for women, firstly. Secondly, towards a new India by 2022, Modi won. He had laid the foundations for an Atmanirbhar Bharat for women. Women are the Atma, the soul of Bharat. And the PM had said in his very first year of governance, the days of seeing women as homemakers have gone. We have to see women today as nation builders. For a strong nation, we need strong women. And an economy without women is like a bird with one wing. We cannot have a new India without the full participation of women. How much exactly gender inequality has stunted our progress? The IMF has estimated that equal participation of women in the workforce will increase India's GDP by 27%. And the evidence is clear that when women have done better, economies have done better. That means we need to tear down all the obstacles that impeded the participation of women in the economy, including tear down subconscious obstacles of the mind. What has happened over the years is there's been a lack of equal ownership of land, of access to credit for women. Women have been unfamiliar with technology. There's a digital gap. There's a financial literacy gap. There are high dropout rates from education. And there's inequitable household load that comes on a woman's shoulders and the patriarchal system. Now, the PM had said in his first year of governance, we cannot have success if 50% of our population is locked up at home. Absolutely. And this government is very committed to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations by 2030 to achieve gender parity. To complete this one session and this one particular answer of yours, from 2014, the Modi Sarkar's flagship schemes in 6 years, most of them are well known to everyone, but briefly there were things like Jan Dhan Yojana, which brought 39 crore previously unbanked people into the formal financial system. Out of this, 53% were women. Then you had the Jan Dhan Trinity and the mobile Jan Dhan, mobile and Aadhaar Trinity. Yes. This has enabled direct benefit transfers to 10 crore people. Okay. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, these are all programs, but briefly I'm brushing through them. The Ujjwala Yojana. Most important, every woman's dream is to have home ownership. And here for affordable housing, this government has reduced stamp duty in certain places, certain states where they're governing, which includes even property tax rebate, lowering interest rates on home loans, subsidies for women where provided a woman is a joint owner of a property. So the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana targets housing for all by 2020. Here it's mandatory that the female head of the family or a female member of the family must be a co-owner for this Awas Yojana. And in this Yojana, 75% of owners so far are women. And most banks offer very concessional rates. That apart, Mudra collateral-free scheme. You know, getting bank loans is difficult without furnishing of collateral. Here, the loan amounts range from 50,000 to 10 lakhs. Until date, 15 crore loans have been extended to women.
Wow.
Then you have the Mahila Heart, which has taken initiatives for online marketing portals. And it is launched by the Ministry of Child and Women Development. It has leveraged technology for supporting women entrepreneurs. The other one is, and there are many such slots, there is the STEP program. You know what STEP does? They have launched to provide skills for women aspiring to become entrepreneurs and imparting teaching to them in horticulture, food processing, handlooms, tailoring, gems and jewelry, stitching, zari, handicrafts, setting up a business, travel, tourism, all this. So what is needed is upskilling. Okay. And also the MSME ministry. Do you know that just in this lockdown period, as many as 1,400 MSME women entrepreneurs have got public undertaking orders worth 400 crores.
Wow,
Okay.
that's huge.
In the period, say, in 2020, 29 to 2020, say in the last 7-8 months. Loans have been made available for women under the Pradhan Mantri Employment Generation Program. Then lastly, to talk about the Atmanirbhata for women, have a look at all the judicial reforms, Kalpana. In the last 6 years, so many archaic laws have been replaced, starting with triple talaq, dowry prohibition, which was a little earlier, of course, protection from domestic violence, etc. And this has made the judicial system the judicial system has become more responsive towards gender-sensitive issues like devolution of property rights, so as to encourage ownership and inheritance laws being more gender neutral.
Wow. I totally.
No, the thing is that earlier governments paid lip service to women's empowerment, financial literacy. This government has done what they could, mostly in phase one. There have been constraints, financial constraints because of the pandemic and the global slowdown in spending on social sector reforms, undoubtedly. So it'll have to pick up pace again. But I think the intent is definitely there, which was furnished in Modi 1.0.
Wow, how wonderful is that? And I mean, you have covered almost all the schemes of women.
No, there are many more, but to slot it in time, I wanted to just cover the basics, which are well-known factors. But women never had access to credit.
Absolutely.
They had to go to money lenders, they had to go to panchayats, they had to. Why just women, even the poor?
Yes.
Today, credit is available and collateral-free credit. And women have a track record, Kalpana ji, bankers will tell you, that they have a better track record of paying back their loans and lesser defaults.
Women come with a lot of...
This is a proven fact about women.
Yes. And women are always very responsible about whenever they get themselves involved in any kind of activity.
On defaults and things like this. G.
Yes. And I really hope that the plight of women changes on all levels, personal, social, and economic, etc. Well, moving on, what are the new avenues of job opportunities and growth that digitization has opened up post-COVID?
Digitization, Kalpana ji, has been probably the most transformational development in the post-COVID world. Hopefully it will be a much greater equalizer than the previous 3 revolutions. Why? Because it only needs a cheap internet and a reasonably priced smartphone, so that it is an equalizer and everyone can access it. The earlier revolutions, the benefits of those revolutions, including even globalization, which was a revolution, it didn't percolate everyone. This revolution has the possibility to percolate down to the masses, because in 6 months of the lockdown, it has accelerated digitization by preponing its adaptation by 3 to 5 years, which is phenomenal. By virtualizing offices overnight, marketplaces, and governance. This has all been virtualized almost overnight because none of us had a choice. And according to Satya Nadella, it has achieved 90% plus time within a short span. When globally, this is interesting here, the data. Globally, teams are clocking 4.1 billion meetings per minute per day. Okay, 4.1 billion meetings, minutes per day. What has been achieved by traveling 15 days a month earlier? Today, executives are video conferencing 5 people in 5 different continents on the same day.
Just imagine.
Globally, what has happened post-pandemic in the world has that we have moved away from the brick and mortar module of a physical space to doing business in the virtual space.
Mm.
It has its merits and demerits, but let me put it this way. This has forced new business models to evolve, substituting the old model in the space of education, telehealth, online retail, offices. Any adept entrepreneur, okay, today would be smart to swiftly, just shift gears and move into the virtual space from the physical space. Because you would get an early mover advantage in this by spotting new thematic propellers of growth, what you call the champion or the sunrise sectors. And this is seen in the realm of even agripreneurship, where a farmer today is online on an online platform. It is seen in the sphere of digital finance, fintech sector. All of us, most of us are today, even if I didn't know how to use it, I'm paying my bills through fintech, The edtech platforms are gaining pace. E-commerce retail, our grocery shopping and essentials, we are shifting to, or work from home appliances. All this is shifting into the virtual world. What it's doing is it's providing opportunities even for women to work from home, earn from home, learn from home.
Wow.
And the gig economy is picking up. It may not secure you, but it is a big niche for women to work and freelance their way while they may be multi-programming from home.
Absolutely.
To prove my point and on how much virtualization has grown and what a driver of growth it's been, look at the valuations, Kalpana ji, of the internet companies that is zoomed in 7 months. The Facebooks, Amazons, Apples, the telecom providers. Why did this happen? How did it happen? Because they don't hold inventories, okay? And they deliver content in a contactless mode. They are delivering content in a contactless mode.
Yes.
Do you know that today these very companies in America are, they become oligopolies. They're not even monopolies anymore. They have turned into gigantic oligopolies. So that is the power of internet-driven economy today in any sphere, where digitization is going to open up multiple sectors. It will be slow, funding will be slow. It's not that it's going to, it's happened, the process has happened. People are constrained because I think people are scared to take risks. Till the pandemic fears don't subside, there is a definite a fear, in the minds of people to take any form of risk.
Yes,
No, basically, that's what I meant to say. That digitization will be a greatest propeller of growth, and it's making us leapfrog into another world.
Okay.
And forcing us to become digitally literate. Even my generation, which was not digitally literate, we have no choice but to turn digitally literate.
Turn digital. And COVID have made all of us learn so many things and get digital. Because even I think this is the third time I'm telling on my live show. Today my maid is telling me, जो भी पैसा है आप मेरे अकाउंट में डाल दीजिए, अगर घर पे लेके जाऊंगी तो शायद मेरा
Isn't this amazing?
Yes, it is amazing. And so everybody's having WhatsApp, everybody's having their account on the hand, and the money is there in the hand. So that's an amazing thing. There's a lot of digital empowerment which has happened. And also I watched in the news on how there's a discussion going on with the Google to help with developing a cluster of 1 lakh digital villages and convert them into model of digital village of empowerment, skilling, healthcare, medicine, distance education.
Today, Kalpana ji, even our shopping mode has changed. It is turning so virtual. You have chatbots. Methods of marketing are changing. The module for marketing is changing, where they're learning how did they penetrate you at your home to show you a virtual showroom. Knowing that you're not going to come to the store.
True.
A jewelry maker will today phone me and take me on a virtual tour, for example, to
Yes, yes.
show me, to entice me into buying something by showing me a collection so I don't have to come.
So that's a new way of digital marketing, you can call that. And I mean that, and
Good.
high.
And digital marketing in itself is a very, very specialized sphere. And people are going to have to learn that all ways of marketing are not going to work. It is
Absolutely.
the future is moving even in marketing to a totally digital sphere. And the
Very,
expert marketers in that.
yes.
There are today experts coming up on artificial intelligence, on
AI.
virtual reality. How do they show you? How do they sell to you? How do they penetrate? Now, if I was a salesperson and I was talking to you face to face,
Mm.
maybe I'd have a better eye connect with you, a
Mm.
better warmth, a better body language to be able to sell my product to you.
Mm.
Now, on the virtual world, how difficult is it? Uh, because we're 10 times removed from each other. And I want to sell you
Mm.
something.
Mm. Mm.
It's that much more challenging for me to reach your mindset,
True.
knowing that you're going to probably give me mushkil, say 2 minutes or 3 minutes, either
Huh.
convince or say, thank you so much, ma'am, I'll meet you later. Look at how challenging it is for the marketing person of today.
Absolutely. This has come with a lot of challenges, but then even people have adopted this new lifestyle.
Yes, yes.
So, as we know, all the sectors of the economy are reforming and preparing for a post COVID-19 world, and gradually, we would like to know the scope of change in the education system of India.
Oh, I think that is going to be one of the biggest revolution. As big as the digital, this is also part of digital. We are today Kalpana ji, at an inflection point in our education trajectory. When 100 years of under literacy could not be transformed for the better, we could do nothing.
Hmm.
It just took a pandemic for everyone being in lockdown mode to leapfrog.
Hmm.
Literally, we had to leapfrog from offline to online learning. A transition which took 6 months to implement, which would normally have taken 3 to 5 years. This will, what it will do is it will democratize education,
Hmm.
de-eliticize it.
Hmm.
It was too elite a preview. It will de-eliticize education for the masses.
Hmm.
And will ultimately, we're moving towards blended learning, which
Hmm.
incorporates the best of online and the offline world.
Hmm.
Smartphone penetration is the key to this, and cheap rates of data.
Hmm.
This is what has contributed to India. And today, as you know, India, probably the viewers don't know, India has 600 million internet users.
Wow.
But our average age is 29 years old.
Okay.
Hence, being the youngest population in the world, presently, 70% of our youth, though they
Hmm.
have access to
Hmm.
mobile phones and mobile apps,
Hmm.
and they will have now the best teachers in the world. But our challenge is that to, to encash on our demographics that we've talked about for so long. Average age being 29 years, how do we get technology to give a level playing field to the youth so that they are globally competitive talent pool? They
Hmm.
must become a globally competitive talent pool.
Hmm.
Virtualization of this, digitization of education will be the greatest enabler.
Hmm.
We may be producing world-class software engineers and business managers who run Fortune 500 companies. But believe me that this is despite our archaic system of the past, not because of it. It is hard work and ambition that led the Satya Nadellas of the world to be where they are. It was not because we had the best education system. Besides, look at it this way. I will come to the teacher ratio problem.
Hmm.
The right to education, it made education free and compulsory
Hmm.
for children, but it wrecked the abysmal uh, teacher to student ratio and
Hmm.
led to very low learning outcomes.
Hmm.
All this had to change sooner or later. Now, the new education policy attempts to synchronize with the global changes so that our students are able to think global yet remain rooted in our nationalistic and traditional values. We want the best of both worlds, undoubtedly. Besides that, transformation reforms in the new education policy, it lays the foundation for a new India for the 21st century, which is an era, Kalpana ji, of knowledge.
Yes.
Knowledge is, we all have to learn how to convert knowledge into wealth. Knowledge is power, but knowledge, how do we, this is the era of knowledge, and experimentation, which is why there's a greater focus on R&D, experimentation, creativity, providing internship within the academic years, a focus on incubation, innovation, everything that upskills you. Okay. I mean, I myself am so tempted to get back to the learning world. Just to give you an example, I could do it well within the comfort of my home today and at my middle age. But because, and I could get access to the best university sitting at home. Because the future is that you have to constantly upskill. There is no age for learning. Yes. And to prove a point, I kept a cutting which I want to show your viewers. Today, have a look at this Amity education thing. Do you know it has about 1,000 courses?
Wow.
And it's mind-blowing stuff I've never heard of. Geoinformatics system and remote sensing. There are 10 courses on that. Solar and alternate energy, there are 5 courses on that. Public policy making, occupational therapy. It is endless. If you see, this is the list.
Yes, I can see that.
How advanced our universities are going. And this was before, I'm coming to this was before even the policy was adopted. Besides, see what NEPs, the new NEP has done is it's opened up for the education sector for foreign direct investment by foreign universities. India could, if we could take advantage of improving the ease of doing business here in this sector, we could become the next educational hub. I'm not saying it with certainty, but I'm saying our target should be to become the next educational hub where students migrate towards India rather than being outbound.
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. This is also an era of interconnected global world where, let's remember, English is an important English is an important language, just like the dollar. And I'm linking this with the new NEP. The dollar is a universal currency.
Yes.
Similarly, English is a language of international commerce.
Yes.
So as India is a multilingual country, and while the new policy lays emphasis on the mother tongue, in the first few years of learning, yes, it's important to enhance the cognitive, skills of children through learning with their mother tongue. But an overemphasis of regional language may be to the detriment of English, which should not happen. And I'll explain to you why. You see, English is the linked language. Even within our country, it's a linked language. In commerce, it is the main language. It's important to understand that the 42nd Amendment Act of the Constitution had transferred education from the state list to the concurrent list. This gave the federal government a lot of powers, okay, to hold subjects to basically make the reins in their hand and centralize the subjects they feel that are important. To balance this out, states and the center will have to arrive at an amicable consensus on the language policy. Will it be 2 or a 3 language formula? Will it become mother tongue plus Hindi plus English? So this is a work in progress, okay? Other than that, education the new education policy, I hope will reduce what I call literacy apartheid that existed due to financial constraints of our masses, and education must become more accessible to all. We also need to ensure that our gross enrollment ratios, that our dropout rates, are lowered. Because cost of higher education, it is the second highest expense in a household after paying rent. Okay. Yes. So hopefully, once the cost is lowered and the cost of smartphones are lowered, this elitism that we associate with education, a branded education like Oxford, Cambridge, St. Stephen's College, etc. I think, and anyone coming out of these colleges, we all know, is privileged in the job market and they go at a premium. With education going online, hopefully it will reduce the cost of education, I hope. And we will achieve a greater uh, uh, numbers by bridging the digital divide. To my mind, more important than anything for this to happen is to bridge the digital divide between urban and rural India. Rural India has very little access to internet in the remotest of areas, and they don't have their own 2G. Not all are as yet on, a more advanced system. So all those are work in progress, which is going on. And let's remember that there is no job permanence. So we have to change our mood of education so that we are able to adapt to Industry 4.0's new job, the changing nature of jobs. And also, there's a lot of, as I told you, freelancing going on. 9-to-5 jobs are very scarce, barely available. There's no job permanence. The student has to be geared through the new education policy because everything is turning obsolete, the pace at which technology is evolving. So they have to lifelong learn, upgrade their skills, reskill, and the education policy, according to me, is focusing on gearing up to these challenges.
Yes, totally agree with you, Vaibhav. And I'm also glad to know about the initiative. But talking about the same, I would also like to ask you, what are the challenges government of India is facing to digitize the education sector?
The basic challenge is internet connectivity and availability, Kalpana ji, of a device. I won't say iPad or smartphone or a phone. The availability of a device which will be well priced and affordable or subsidized at certain places. There's a lot of welfareism that Amma Jayalalta did, for example, in South India.
Yes.
We need models that promote these kind of subsidies, incentives for the poor, so that the gadget is available.
Absolutely.
The Swayam program that HRD ministry has started. They're going to be beaming that through 32 Doordarshan channels. So even a television, a community television. Now, how the sharing will work out, I don't know. But for education content to be delivered, we need a gadget. Is it a TV? Is it a TV? Is it an old-fashioned radio? It won't help. Ultimately, it has to be, even a smartphone is not the answer. Cost of iPads, through economy of scale, cost of computers, government will have to ultimately work on this mode, because if we are going to depend on the previous mode of how villages in rural India functions for education, with teachers missing, teacher-student ratios being low, educational outcomes being so poor, we need direct-to-home education. It has to become like Netflix, a service on demand.
Yes.
This is an era where everything is on demand. We need education on demand, like Netflix.
Very valid point.
In my home. And ultimately, that should be our aim. Look at the Baijus of the world.
Yes.
Did you see during the lockdown? Most of the companies had gone off the air for advertising. Which were the drivers of growth? You had Amul, you had Baijus. Did you see the kind of money that they would have spent? And they are going to grow 10x. To the power of 10x is their growth capacity of Unacademy, of Baidu, all these kind of,
And I think now the mobile phone or the iPad is no more a luxury, it is a necessity.
It is a necessity. And yes, I did read that the HRD ministry has put forth a proposal to take care of some amount. But
Yes,
we need mass coverage for this, where EMIs are very, very affordable for students, because see, higher education anywhere in the world is very expensive.
very, very
And
expensive.
the cost of EMIs are expensive. Here, you have a chance of lowering the price of education by making it more mass and getting a device which is more accessible to all. So
Absolutely.
it cuts down on commuting time to a school and takes care of lack of a teacher not showing up because they're so careless there.
True, 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 true.
And they're undereducated.
True, and I really hope we can reach the remotest of the village and help people out in terms of education, because I believe
I think we
there is
are. I think
literacy
we
and
are on our
education.
way.
There is a scope of employment and
We
growth.
are on our way to that path, and it should not take long,
Yes,
because pandemic has set that trajectory going.
true, absolutely. Because if there's a literacy and education, only there will be a scope of employment and growth.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. That is the main propeller of growth. And like I said, I'm very charmed with the model of the Byju's and the Khan Academy and all these verticals that have come up in education. Look at what they're going to be able to do. Even I've shown you in Amity, which is a physical campus. But today they're delivering it online. You can access Oxford and Cambridge because they're doing offline courses.
Yes.
So the initiative depends on us. I'm not talking about rural India, but in urban India. Today, the level you want to be educated up to, and whatever age, you could be 60, 70, whatever, so long you have that inclination and you have the gadget, you can be online. And just because if you do not keep abreast of knowledge and information and technology, you are obsolete. Whether you're working or not, you will not be able to even relate to that next generation.
Totally agree with you, ma'am. And that's what I've been advocating, that today women, children, men, everybody are so busy on this Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook.
And I've said this, in a show that I talked to you, Kalpana ji. I said, what a waste of time is it going on social media.
Imagine.
Okay, do it for a while for the fun of it, Twitter, Facebook. But, it's not going to get you anywhere. Absolutely. It's not going to get the youth anywhere. And they are so full of posting the latest handbag, the latest shoe they bought. It is nothing but a waste of time. It's great to have a social life, but I suppose because we are in lockdown mode, this becomes a proxy for real connection.
Yes, yes.
So long as one doesn't stretch it beyond the fun point of it, it cannot become a full-time,
Yeah, it just takes a couple of hours.
It's so unproductive. I wish one could explain to children as they grow older. It is absolutely unproductive.
Absolutely. That's why I've been also advocating about it. It just takes a couple of hours where you can use your, time in a very productive way. There are n number of schemes. You just showed a newspaper with list of, n number of courses. Look at this. I mean, you just have to go reach out. See, there's so much to learn and so much to grow and upskill yourselves. But
it is such an, actually, barring the pandemic, we are living through very exciting times.
Yeah.
When we have access to it all, where 10, 20 years back, what was it? We were saddled with MTNL landlines, ambassador cars. We lived such boring lives, and 40 years back, it was only Doordarshan and Chitrahar and things like that. Look at what all the youth has today.
Yes,
but
yes.
What a waste of time to be on social media.
Very true, very true.
Yes, social media is important if you're promoting something. You're promoting a brand, an image. Subtly, you're doing some solid work with it. But if it's an I, me, myself motto, I think it is the biggest waste of time.
using in a right way is always the right thing, but it's high time, even parents get educated more than children now, because we see a lot of men and women they themselves are involved into all this social media stuff. So our kids have to go in that same route. Well, moving
They
on.
have to go through the motions. They have to learn it. Yes.
They have to learn it, and the awareness has to be done more now on more of digital thing. Ma'am, in one of your blog title,
Blog name was a newspaper article. You're talking about urbanization.
Yeah, urbanization India. So you talked about the need for the economy to gain a pace and act as much needed social equalizer. How did you come up with this unique term, and what is
Believe it or not, I am a copycat. I copied the Prime Minister because this phrase was invented by him.
Oh.
Yes. Urbanization, basically, it entails introducing urban facilities into rural India.
Yes.
So when Modi ji was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, he defined urbanization as one which preserved the soul of villages by providing all the civic and infrastructure facilities available in big towns, and for cities in order to arrest migration. At the same time, bringing down the burden, on big cities and towns which were bursting at their seams. So the idea was actually experimented with urbanization in Gujarat. Now, earlier, if you see, one of the earliest examples of urbanization was Amul India in Gujarat. What did Amul India do? Look how it corporatized the milk sector, the cooperatives that it came up with, the white revolution. So Amul became an example of urbanization.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Then let's remember the basic premise of all this migrant issue is that returning migrants post-COVID, every state must value them as human assets whose hands had helped build urban India. Our roads, our bridges, our highways, our metros were built by migrants. Today, if they have returned home and they're reluctant to come back, many of them don't want to return. So what do? It means that their skills are so important to be harvested by these labor exporting states within their own states, so that they add value to their states and increase their income within their own home.
Phenomenal.
Why should the poor people have to travel so far for a better life or for a livelihood? And urbanization basically, again, I'm redefining it as best as I can. It's upgrading the traditional skills of rural arts, crafts, agriculture, and introducing technology by hand-holding the villagers. How do they increase productivity? How can they come onto global marketplace through platforms? How do they access finance? Modernizing their way of doing cottage industries, for example. Okay, it's a very participatory process, which ultimately would increase the remuneration of villagers. I'll give you another example aside from Amul. Take what Khadi Gramadyog is doing.
Yes.
Okay, it's again it's a way of bringing urbanizing villages. Okay, and just for your information, it has helped in Khadi, has helped in financing and setting up 2 lakh industry units in 5 years, while directly employing 5,26,000 artisans.
Wow.
So, KVIC has now become a nodal agency that supports jobs through the Pradhan Mantri Employment Generation Program. As an example of urbanization, I'll tell you, I was thinking the other day after I saw the Ayodhya ceremony. Ayodhya it's not a village. It can't be called rural, but let's say it's a tier 3 township. Think about this, Kalpana ji, that you will see in the temple town, by the time in 3 years or 2.5, 3 years, it's ready. The economy will grow, it'll urbanize, it'll upgrade, because religious tourism will force that there'll be new roads, railways, airports, hotels, so much economic activity that will urbanize an underdeveloped township. So it's the same concept when I talk of urbanization, quoting the Prime Minister, that like we have these sort of smart cities, we need smart villages today.
Yes.
Which will develop better habitations, better medical facilities, increase economic activities closer to where there is a cluster of villages.
Rightly said, ma'am, and it's such a wonderful idea and thought. The best way to bring about equality also, I would say.
The three best examples of this was, as I said, Amul India, what it did to the white revolution.
Yes.
Think how, what a business model they evolved in 1946. So all the Amul suppliers are co-holders of the company. You know, they are participants in the growth of that
company itself.
They are stakeholders. So it is empowering the farmer, the villager, or like Khadi Gramadyog, or tomorrow, like I'm saying, Ayodhya. These are the best examples I can quote, where you are upgrading remote and rural areas or trying to bring industry closer to a cluster of villages.
It's about inclusion, basically.
Migrant labor does not, next time again, have to be exploited by urban India.
Urban India, right. It's so wonderful to know how, you know, when we are talking about inclusive India, so these are the, you know, few thought process where all of you are working, the brilliant minds in Delhi, and you're there at Niti Aayog. I've read your article, so beautifully well written, ma'am. You are totally, you know, you inspire us to another level. And
Thank you. That's your very, very gracious and sweet.
Such a huge fan of yours, ma'am. Ma'am, are there any other upcoming books of yours apart from what you have?
No, if you really ask me about a book, I'm not tempted right now, but I might be one day tempted to think about love, lust, and longing in 2020.
Wow.
Because I'm a romantic at heart, and I feel maybe I just want to explore a love story and how romance would thrive in a contactless, phobic, unamorous world where there's no touch, no feel, no sex. How then will love, which is the most primal emotion of man, how will that survive? How is it going to survive post 2020 with this the abnormal situation that we're living in? I'd love to explore it someday, but no. As of now, I have no plans of going into fiction.
We are waiting for it. And I must say about even your last novel was a beautiful one for a debut, because the way you have chatted your life on your own, you know, unconventional
parts of it were fiction, parts of it were more, you know. Emotions were real, the events were not. It wasn't really a biography. It was more it was just something I enjoyed. And for me, it was the first thing that made me realize how serious I was about financial literacy for women. I really believe that when women are financially empowered and financially literate, they are prone to less domestic violence and they are able to come into their own astitva. That is the bottom line. That I want to see no woman being exploited because of a financial illiteracy or an incapacity to earn or to save.
So, ma'am, I mean, if you read the latest statistics about this domestic violence which is happening globally, it has reached up to 70 to 80%. What are your views on this? How should women cope up with this? And not only domestic violence, even the child abuse have increased equally.
It saddens me, Kalpana ji, what you're telling me. Yes, I also have read it more so in India. I don't know what's happening in the world. But yes, it has deeply saddened me about child abuse and about domestic violence. And I think this is something, you know, these are things that are actually by law very difficult to prove. How does a child explain he's being violated physically or emotionally? What access does he have to law? Or a woman who's being subdued or not subdued, I mean, if she's subjected to violence.
Mm.
What is her proof? The laws are not, or there is no proof. That is the sad part. For both, there is no evidence enough. You can just say that, yeah, he hit me or he abused me, but the moment is gone. So the culprit gets away unscathed.
Yes, yes.
So, it's a very difficult thing to prove evidence-wise, both child abuse and this.
And the domestic. And even now the cyber crime, which is increasing it.
That becomes another thing, but at least cyber crime, Kalpana ji, is not an emotional thing as child violence, child abuse, and women violence. Cyber crime is something they've got to deal with in their laws, and we each have to turn savvy so that we don't do stupid things with our gadgets.
True. Very well said, sir. Ma'am, now moving on to this little fun part of it, quick rapid fire. Who inspires you the most?
Oh, may I say 3 people inspire me the most, not one.
Okay.
The first is my father, my late father, who Kalpana ji taught me very solid middle class values and discipline he inculcated in me. Second is my brother-in-law, Shiv Nadar, who founded Hindustan Computers, for motivating me. He motivated me in my younger years to stay passionate and stay paranoid in pursuit of my goals. And in the last 6 years, I think I would say my thoughts are been greatly, or my worldview has been greatly shaped by my greatest icon, which is the Prime Minister.
Yes.
Because he thinks big. I track his speeches because he raises the benchmarks of achievements to surreal highs. And that to me is very challenging. I love a good fight. I love a good challenge. It may scare me in the beginning, but I love it. And yet he is so humanistic, towards societal goals,
yes,
towards having impacted the lives in some way or the other of 130 crore Indians. So to me, in that order, yes, my late father, my brother-in-law, and in the last 6 years, it's Modi ji, who are my greatest icons and they inspire me.
Wow. You have actually spoken it so soulfully, and I could feel that emotional bond with all 3 of them.
Really, I had gone to the PM when we celebrated the ease of doing business 2 years back, which was a function held in his residence. There was one remarkable thing that he said. We had gone up the scale in the ease of doing business to 70 something. November 19th of year before last. So he said one thing that he had learned as in his school in Gujarat, his school teacher taught him. It is okay if you miss 1 year's target or you miss a target. You are not allowed to lower your target.
Yes.
Now, to my mind, it had multiple meanings. It meant as a human being also, I have to raise my bar.
Yes.
In terms of achievement, I have to raise my bar. Coming from anyone else, I wouldn't have bothered. There was another very pertinent thing that the Prime Minister said, even amidst the elections, when, if you remember, Akshay Kumar or someone asked him, who is your greatest competitor? And he said, I don't have any competitor, it's only me. Because if tomorrow my opponents draw a line, I don't cross the line, I just draw a higher line, and I just draw a taller line. This all is very, very motivational for me, even today.
Do you have any memorable moment with him? Something you would cherish? Any conversation with Modi?
Yes, this was
many times.
I did. I had the pleasure of meeting him. Of course, I met him later also, but I think my most memorable moment, Kalpana ji, was when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. And in 2013, I had gone to Gandhinagar. Just 4-5 months before he became the Prime Minister. So you can say, in a way, it was November 2013. And I had the privilege of a one-on-one meeting with a man who was going to become, was a legend in the making. It was so enthralling because of his modesty, because of his punctuality, because when he's speaking to you, he is not, even if you're sitting with your children or you go to a bureaucrat or you go anywhere, 10 times the phone will ring or they'll be looking at the message. No, if he is talking to you, he is only talking to you. His eye contact is with you. It can be 3 minutes, it can be 30 minutes. I mean, these are, for me, they were very moving moments.
It is indeed. That shows the amount of respect he's giving who is sitting right next to you.
Yes. Yes,
Wow.
indeed.
And what is the greatest risk you have ever taken?
Oh, Kalpana ji, the greatest risk I ever took was, I would say, when I was, this was during the downturn, the global downturn that happened. I played the stock markets in 2008, 2009. I had to really learn the hard way the difference between funding and being a disciplined investor. I mean, I thought it's great fun. Wow. I mean, as financially literate as I was, I thought this is easy money. It was going up. It was zooming the markets. It was a roller coaster high. But ultimately, I think after the subprime crisis, when everyone became wiser and they burnt their boats, I had to wait it out before recovering my capital. But I would say it was a learning experience, and wisdom dawned, and I got away unscathed.
Wow, thank God.
That's the maximum risk that I've taken. And today, I think I have a zero threshold risk.
Wow, wonderful. And what is the most memorable moment of your life?
Again, I would say the most memorable moment of my life was when my grandchildren were born. And when not even when Modi ji became Prime Minister and subsequently the Gandhinagar meeting with him. It was really memorable.
Yes, yes. And if you could change one thing about your life, what would it be?
Oh, I've got so many flaws, Kalpana ji. I would want to change so many things.
You are such
I would want to become more predictable and consistent instead of being, either extremely euphoric or going, the reverse direction into an inevitable low. It just makes me an emotional junkie, which I don't want to be. It's not a great thing. And I swing between, you can say, irrational enthusiasm and irrational despair. There is no in between. I don't know gray.
Oh, either it's black or white.
It's black or white. Yeah, absolutely. And I think at times when I can't and I'm swinging between those two states of mind, it does affect my creativity periodically. I wish I could be more sthir in this, but I'm too impulsive.
Yes, yes. And a place where you love being the most?
Believe it or not, having been on so many roller coaster rides abroad and traveled the world over the years, I would say my comfort zone is my own home, which is my haven, my temple.
Yes.
I don't like traveling very much nowadays because also I find travel to me used to be a way of escaping. I don't want to be an escapist anymore.
Okay.
I don't want to indulge in being in escapism. I prefer traveling inwards today. Where earlier I was crazy about exploring new destinations. No, I don't believe in just boarding the next flight for the sake of going. It doesn't hold my fancy anymore.
And do you also have any hobbies?
Yes, I do. I love working out when I do. I love listening to the Deep House Collection tracks. Those are really fabulous. Occasionally, I like to socialize, not very much. But I think I get my serotonin highs through exercising, basically. And of course, I love watching a lot of the news in the evenings.
And the very last question, if you were to be the Prime Minister for a day, what is the first thing you would do?
You know what I would do? I would set in further motion, not set in motion. Modi ji is already doing a lot, and so is the finance minister. I would want to accelerate a feel-good factor in the economy, which will enhance wealth creation. I want that there should be some magic wand to infuse the animal spirits into industry by removing bureaucratic and policy hurdles, which we have suffered for too long, and yo-yo in policies. Because I do believe our entrepreneurial excellence is par excellence. We produce the Satya Nadellas and the Sundar Pichais of the world who created so much wealth for American organizations. So all that we are lacking is that feel-good factor, stable policies and regulations that are enabling, that are facilitatory. I want ultimately business should be a fun-filled and a rewarding activity. What does one earn for? End of the day, you do earn for wealth creation. You do want a better balance and a better quality of life. So I would want for every Indian to achieve his optimal level of affluence. And if I was Prime Minister for a day, I'd quickly, through some magic wand, want to summon everyone and say, guys, give me something which we will pursue the path as a sankalp. No matter what, we are going to see that make every Indian rich.
Such a nationalist thought and views, ma'am. You have such a vast knowledge on policy making and on women empowerment.
Kalpana ji, you're very gracious. Thank you so much. So gracious.
I think I really personally feel, what are you doing here? You need to be in parliament.
You know that I've been very shy. I've never thought of it even, but that's so generous of you in your compliments. And thank you so much.
33% of 33% women reservation in politics. Yes. We need women like you who leads from the front.
And you, Kalpana ji, and you, definitely. Look how truly, I mean, how wonderful it's been interacting with you and knowing your aspect of knowledge in so many spheres, and considering you interview so many people virtually one a day. I mean, I can imagine the kind of thought levels you would have to put into understanding their subjects, framing the right questions, So, I would return the same compliment to you with a lot of affection.
That's a huge compliment and huge honor, ma'am. Aapse blessing milna matlab something. It's very. I mean, मेरे तो goosebumps आ रहे हैं. I feel so blessed to know you.
It's really been a pleasure, Kalpana ji, and I wish you all the best for your future programs, and do remain in touch offline.
100%, ma'am. Okay, all right. So I have another 2 more questions to ask you, ma'am. Any message you would want to give for my platform, Social Tables?
Tell me a little bit more. The audience for the platform is youth, women, who?
All, in general. Okay, so there are 2 questions. One is a message for Social Tables. That is my platform. And before we conclude, a few words of wisdom or advice you would like to give our audience.
For your social table, what would I say? What's the area of activity in social table? Just tell me that once again.
Ma'am, social tables...
No, what you do with ASSOCHAM, what you do with FICCI, is it concerned with youth, women, or what age group does it apply?
It is overall. We are talking about empowerment. We are talking about knowledge sharing. We are talking about societal well-being. We are committed to societal development and program with societal well-being and environmental consciousness. So hence, every week we bring out some of the brightest minds from
I would say one thing, that this is, I said it earlier, but I will amplify. We each have been given certain acumen, certain gifts by God. It would be unfair if we don't take it to the optimal level. Lifelong, we have to commit ourselves to doing the optimum we can, because knowledge is not just power. Knowledge is the ability to convert what you have earned what you have learned through your reading and writing
Mm.
into output. Knowledge must gain you, must gain you wealth. We have to know how to convert knowledge into wealth, into power. Otherwise, just having academic knowledge is of no use.
No use.
Number two, I do believe that every human being, and this was something I learned from my father, even at the age of 84, as long as we are there, because lifespans are increasing. Had it not, forget the pandemic, otherwise through science, lifespans have increased. We hope to live beyond 80.
Yes.
Okay. So I would say one thing. How would you plan your life if you have to live till 80, 90? So how do you stretch your finances? Would you become a vegetable when you're 70, 80? Or would you say, no, I have to now plan, how would I live till 80, 90 in terms of knowledge, in terms of my finances?
Yes.
I would need to plan for longevity.
Absolutely.
So the only thing we all as human beings have to do is work and learn lifelong. There is no age to stop working. Working does not mean just going to office. Working can mean your hobby. It can mean anything. But that is what animates it. And it's a survival. It is the only way to survival is this, and planning your financial future always.
That is indeed a wonderful tip.
Because there is a high cost of inflation in medicine, in insurance policies.
Yes, it is.
You're going to live till 80 plus, going into 90 as science progresses. How would you finance yourself? Are we going to be dependent on our children or the next generation or anyone? It is about becoming Atmanirbhar.
Wow.
We have to learn to become, whether it's man or woman, emotionally Atmanirbhar ban jao.
What a wonderful,
financially Atmanirbhar ban jao.
What a wonderful way to end the conversation.
No, I believe it. I don't want any woman, more than a man, I don't want to see any woman dependent on anyone.
Yes.
Because that is, it's somewhere. And I will end with one beautiful saying that we're talking in a different way, in a different plane. I met Salman Khan's father, Salim Khan, 3-4 years back. I dropped into his house in Bandra and we were talking. It was my first meeting and only meeting, so we stayed in touch. And he said something very beautiful to me. He said, Binduji, kabhi आंसू निकल आए तो खुद पूछिएगा, लोग पूछेंगे तो सौदा करेंगे.
Oh, wow.
Does it answer घूम फिर के what I'm saying?
Yes.
It is the ability to, that emotionally, financially, physically, do the optimum you can so you are Atmanirbhar. We all need each other long term, but as much as you can, strengthen yourself, keep at it.
And it is very important. Now, these days, no, koi kisi ka nahi hai. I mean, this is so beautifully said. अगर आंसू आए तो खुद ही पूछ लेना, क्या पता कोई
खुद पूछिएगा, लोग पूछेंगे तो सौदा करेंगे.
लोग पूछेंगे तो I'll definitely tweet about this as well, tagging Salman Khan. Well, wow, that's it. That was an amazing.
Salim Khan said it to me.
Yes, I will.
His dad.
I will do that both. That was an amazing response, ma'am. Before we conclude, a few words of wisdom or advice you would like to give to our audience?
I think I've given enough gyan. I don't want to bore them more with my gyan. Atmanirbhar. Atmanirbhar raho, khush raho. Abhi jo bhi sthiti hai, we have to resign ourselves. That I read this even with Nandan Nilekani in Face Papers, or was it yesterday, who invented the Aadhaar and founder of Infosys. And he said, you know, I have mentally conditioned my mind that till June of next year, come what may, we will all have to attune ourselves that we'll have to be more or less homebound. Till the vaccine doesn't come, which makes it even tougher. And all these things that you talked about, violence at home, child abuse, what to do with your spare time, depression, I may not be abused. I could just be going into depression. We all have to just for the next 6-9 months, because even a vaccine will take time of trial error until we feel secure that yes, we can go ahead with it. How do we use our time? How are we going to use our time being at home? Are we going to go into further depression? What can we do by the time the economy and the world opens up fully? Okay, hopefully next year. What do we do to hit the ground running? How can we come out of it as stronger, finer people with more knowledge, with more ideas, and in tune with how can we, when the world reopens fully, how do we hit the ground running? So use this period as a sabbatical, a forced sabbatical, to upskill, to learn, to do anything, but don't keep an idle moment at all. It's a luxury none of us can afford.
True, very true, very true. It's a luxury that none of us can afford. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and my best for your viewers, and thank you for having me, Kalpana ji.
Thank you so much.
It's really been a pleasure.
Great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks to you.
Thank you.
Who, despite your busy schedule, managed to come and grace this.
Not at all. Indeed, I really enjoyed the interaction with you. It's been so spontaneous.
We are extremely, extremely grateful to you for sharing your words of encouragement and giving us valuable inputs.
And you keep well and in good cheer and keep looking as beautiful as you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.